Hello and welcome. A disturbing picture has re-emerged about our youth and college life in India this week. A student's death at the IIT Kharagpur earlier this month. The student's parents then moved the Calcutta High Court demanding a thorough probe into what they suspect to be murder on campus due to ragging. The death of Faizan Ahmed, a third-year mechanical engineering student from Tinsukia in Assam, is being investigated by the police. Faizan Ahmed was found dead in his hostel room on the 14th of October. His parents requested the High Court for an independent investigation, and the court has now directed the IIT director to submit a detailed report later this month on the 22nd of November. In 2001, the Supreme Court banned ragging across India. The death of Aman Kachru, a student of a medical college in Dharamshala, due to ragging in 2009, prompted the Supreme Court to step in and to direct all educational institutions in the country to strictly follow the anti-ragging law. Yet, ragging continues, and incidents of deaths on Indian campuses due to this scourge continue to be reported. These are bright young minds that we're losing every year due to mental and physical torture. Why is ragging a ritual on Indian campuses? And why is it so acceptable to lose young, driven, bright minds to senseless violence? On We the People tonight, we have Rajinder Kachru, founder of the amanmovement.org, in the face of eradication of ragging. This is Aman Kachru's father. We have Ranaji Chatterjee, the advocate in the Calcutta High Court, appearing for the Ahmeds, the family, the father and mother of the deceased student Faizan Ahmed. Aarti C. Rajaratnam, psychologist and author, and Praneeth Mungali, educationist, a trustee at the Sanskriti Group of Schools. But first, our hearts go out to Rehana Ahmed, mother of Faizan Ahmed, the deceased student of IIT Kharagpur. Rehana ji, thank you so much for joining us on We the People. रेहाना जी, क्या हुआ था फैजान के साथ? कैन यू टेल अस अ लिटिल बिट अबाउट फैजान? आप फैजान के बारे में कुछ बता सकते हो हमें? उसके हिज ड्रीम्स, हिज एस्पिरेशंस, उनके आशाएं, उनके सपने के बारे में?
बहुत सपना था उसका. वो हमें बोलता रहा मैं आईआईटी करूंगी, उसके बाद कुछ आईएमए या किसी में सीट मिले तो मैं आगे पढ़ाई करूंगी मम्मा. मैं आगे पढ़ना चाहती हूँ, आगे बढ़ना चाहती हूँ, मैं कुछ और करना चाहती हूँ. उसका सपना बहुत था. वो सपना लेके आईआईटी में गया रहा, लेकिन उस सपने को एक रैगिंग की वजह से खत्म कर दिया गया.
मैम, आपने अब अपील की है, क्योंकि आप, मुझे लग रहा है कि मैंने सुना है कि आपको अथॉरिटी से तो कोई आशाएं नहीं है, यू डोंट हैव एनी होप्स कि उनसे कुछ होगा, बट आपने अब अपील की है दूसरे पेरेंट्स को, दूसरे आईआईटी स्टूडेंट्स के माँ बाप को आपने अपील की है. आप क्या कह रहे हो और क्यों अपील कर रहे हो दूसरे पेरेंट्स को? अब
इसीलिए अपील कर रही हूँ मैम दूसरे आईआईटी स्टूडेंट के मम्मी पापा को कि वो रात को जाग के सोए, अपने कान खोल के सोए, क्योंकि दूसरा फैजान नहीं होना चाहिए. जो मैंने बेटा खोया, जो मेरा बेटा मुझसे गया, वो दूसरी माँ का ना हो, दूसरी माँ ना रोए. मेरा एक ही बेटा था, होनहार बेटा था, इतना सारा सपना लेके आईआईटी में किया रहा. आज उसका सपना आईआईटी वालों ने, अथॉरिटी ने वैसा ये कर दिया. अगर रैगिंग जब हो रहा था तभी उन लोगों ने जब कंप्लेन किया रहा फैजान ने, तब अथॉरिटी अगर एक्शन लेता, मैनेजमेंट अगर ये करता, तो शायद मेरा फैजान नहीं मरता. आज कितने फैजान को ना जाने इस रैगिंग ने मार डाला है. आज इसी तरह से अगर दूसरा फैजान और मरे तो दूसरी एक माँ फिर रोएगी, एक होनहार स्टूडेंट फिर चली जाएगी. हम क्या आईआईटी में अपने बच्चे को मरने के लिए भेजते हैं? हाँ, पढ़ने के लिए भेजते हैं ना. उन लोगों को, अथॉरिटी को जो है, मैनेजमेंट जो है, उनको पेरेंट्स बना के हम अपने बच्चे को पढ़ने के लिए वहाँ भेजते हैं. बच्चों का सपना दे के हम वहाँ भेजते हैं. हाँ, तो अगर इसी तरह से वो लोग करते रहेंगे तो हम क्या कितने फैजान खोते रहेंगे. और इसीलिए मैं पेरेंट्स को बोल रही हूँ, आप लोग जागिए कि दूसरा फैजान ना खोना पड़े.
Do we send our students to college to study to die? No parent should have to ask themselves or have to live with that question. Ranaji Chatterjee is an advocate with the Calcutta High Court. He's appearing for the Ahmed family. Mr. Chatterjee, Faizan's mother there saying that if the authorities had acted on the complaint, we would not be here today. He would not be another statistic. This young student had complained to the authorities. Was there a system in place on the ground that he complained, that he took, that he tried to take up? The parents have also said in court that there was an attempt made to say that Faizan was mentally disturbed, that he had committed suicide because of stress over studies, and that he had refused to be part of an assimilation program, which is really just a euphemism for ragging.
She's absolutely right. Had the authorities taken effective steps, rather than a mere stern warning, what is described as a stern warning, this would not have happened. This assimilation program was followed by the hall elections. It's called the council hall elections. It's actually the hostel elections. And there was a lot of infighting there. Faizan complained about the rigging of the elections, I suppose. And there was a Facebook post on it, and there it is described as worse than what happened in the so-called assimilation program.
Oh gosh.
That happened in August. This is a part of our writ petition. And very curiously, but perhaps predictably, the same evening that the matter was heard in the High Court, the post was deleted. Now there's a direction of our Honorable High Court judge that post should be retrieved, and most certainly because the authorities, the IIT institution was served, they were represented at the hearing on 3rd of November. They must have told the concerned students to have the post deleted.
So this is very worrying on two fronts, right? Because one, there is an issue of ragging, which there is a crime against, there's a law against it. But on the other hand, we now have a case that was initially believed to be a case of suicide due to academic pressure being suspected to be a case of ragging and murder. And the police has, the High Court, I beg your pardon, has expressed concern over the police's investigation and the role of the administration in tackling ragging on campus. So this is despite what the Supreme Court's directive was. Not just do we also have ragging, we also have the authorities not acting as per the Supreme Court's directive.
Absolutely. Following the recommendations of the committee that was constituted, we now have a regulation in force, a statutory regulation which has very many checks contemplated. A monitoring cell, anti-ragging committee, anti-ragging squads, which can even conduct raids.
Yeah.
Separate hostels for freshers and seniors. And certainly small groups of freshers. He was not really a fresher, but he was new to the campus because due to the COVID, they all joined in November 2020.
Correct. All right, that explains it. But you know, the irony is the IIT Kharagpur website itself refers to this order of the Supreme Court regarding the steps that authorities will take and should take to punish offenders involved in ragging. It says that the punishment will include expulsion from the institution, suspension from the institution or from classes for a limited period. But there is clearly a mismatch between what the court directive says and what institutes do. The Supreme Court has clear directives on ragging, but implementation clearly seems to be missing or lukewarm by many authorities. Let's try and bring in some students over here. I have some second year students from Hansraj College joining us, Adrit, Harish, Ankit and Sahil. Thank you so much for your time. You know, you're speaking for other students. Please explain to us why we keep hearing such horrific stories. It's like it's impossible to imagine that students would do this to others. I don't want to sound naive. I've also been in college at some point. I want to simply ask you, how does this continue? Because at some point, the senior was once a junior. The senior was once a fresher who went through this ragging. How do you then inflict it on others?
Yeah, so I hope I'm audible.
Yeah.
The fact that happens is, first, before I begin to speak anything, I would say that words really fall short hearing about this incident. But the fact that there is this Faizan that constantly happens in our college campuses, there these stories come up. One of the Faizan takes a very extreme step. But what we constantly go through is something that is very tragic in these places. For example, as I came in as a first year student back in February, and then I was in first year, that these instances of bullying and ragging were sort of a constant reality for me, because one, that I did not fit into that image of the popular masculinity that there is. And also because my interests were different from that of the mainstream crowd and places. So therefore, I had to face this. And about this question as to why the seniors, like now that we are in second year and now that the freshers have again joined in, we see some of our batchmates as well indulging in that thing. So it has to be seen in that context, that they had faced it through one entire semester. And now that these freshers come in, they see them as the next set of victims on whom they can perpetrate the violence that had once been committed on them.
How does one break out of this cycle? So is the, the Supreme Court directive, the fact that all of the websites, the posters around campus say that this is not allowed, does this not prove to be any deterrent? Is there no fear of authorities cracking down on you?
There is, to be honest, we have to fill up an anti-ragging form. And we need to show that, get it stamped and have things happen. But then that is what exists at a very official level only. Things do not go out, do not flow out to the authorities, or even if they do, the process is very lax.
Very slow. So then, do students not complain?
Do students not complain? Yes, they do. But for example, I would relate a very personal experience of this. That once that I was said about my dressing style and the style of wearing particular jewelries, I did take it up to the pertinent authorities. But then the sort of reaction that I faced was something that I was not very much satisfied with. I was asked to either live with that reality or maybe to find out other expressions of having my identity that is different from the rest of the society to be registered.
So basically asking you to conform. All right. So, okay, let's go back to 2009. We had Aman Kachru, was a first-year student at a medical college in Himachal Pradesh. He was severely, persistently ragged by seniors who were allegedly drunk. On the 7th of March 2009, 4 of his seniors attacked him so brutally in the boys' hostel that he had to be rushed to the hospital the next day. And the post-mortem showed that this 19-year-old had died of brain hemorrhage. A probe panel was then appointed by the Supreme Court after there was nationwide outrage. And it found that this teenager, 19-year-old student, young boy, had repeatedly complained to the college. He had asked for help, but he was ignored. Kachru's death then led to the introduction of new guidelines at colleges across the country to protect students from ragging. And under this, there was an anti-ragging law that was set up, which says that if a student is found guilty, he can be imprisoned for 3 years, along with a fine. Yet we have this vicious cycle of ragging that does not seem to have been broken. We are thankful, grateful to have Aman Kachru's father joining us, Raj Kachru. Mr. Kachru, let there not be another Aman Kachru is what we had said way back in 2009 in television studios like mine. Here we are today talking about Faizan Ahmed. His grieving mother is pleading the same. She's saying, let there not be another Faizan. Yet you get complaints regularly. Today you shared a complaint that you recently got that was quite horrific, frightening, beatings, sexual nature of harassment and abuse. Where do we stand after 2009?
It's a difficult question to answer. Where do we stand? Because what we see is not a great achievement in the sense. But before I go, I want to convey my condolences and sympathies to Rehana Ahmed. And I fully agree with her. And this is the message. Even if we can convey this message today, we'll be doing a good job. If we can convey to parents that their children are not safe in campuses in India. I can tell 5 years ago, I would not have said this. But today, I have no hesitation in saying that their children are not safe in campuses in India. For the last 3 years, Government of India, UGC and everything have forgotten about ragging. We have gone way behind since June 2009. It's anybody's. We're back to the situation like 2019. I'm sorry. We have gone. Everything kind of stopped in 2019, and we are going backwards.
It's a very difficult, I'm sure it's very difficult for you, sir, as a parent, as a father, to say that, and I think that's what you're saying right now, in a sense, the parents not just suffer the most, but they're also where the responsibility lies, you're saying. Parents should not trust authorities. Do the students not reach out to parents? I'm assuming like Faizan was a scholarship child, probably overcame a lot of, I know he was a child on scholarship, overcame a lot of difficulty to get to the school. अहमद मैम, रेहाना अहमद जी, फैज़ान ने क्या आपको बताया था कि उसके साथ क्या हो रहा था, या बच्चों जैसे सोचते कि माँ बाप को परेशान नहीं करना चाहिए उनके प्रॉब्लम्स?
जी, वही सोचा मैडम, उसने बताया, कभी नहीं बताया। मैं उससे हमेशा पूछती हूँ तुम वहाँ ठीक हो ना बेटा? बोलता रहा मैं हैप्पी हूँ माँ, आप चिंता मत करो, यहाँ हैप्पी हूँ, मैं सब खुश हूँ, यहाँ ठीक है सब। कभी बोला नहीं था मेरे साथ ऐसा कुछ हुआ है बोल के। अगर बोलता तो शायद मैं उसे बचा पाता।
लेकिन can I
go ahead please
comment here is that जो इन्होंने बोला कि ये रियलिटी है। जब पेरेंट्स के बच्चे जाते हैं कैंपस में, we feel as parents कि they are safe. There is a vice chancellor, there is a registrar, there is a helpline, there is a mechanism, there is UGC, there is rules, there is law, there is Ministry of Education, there is everything. We get this impression कि ये safe है, लेकिन ये safe नहीं है. This is parents in India have to come to this realization कि उनके बच्चे safe नहीं हैं.
वो safe
हम
है,
आपको
इतने बड़े इंस्टीट्यूट में भेजे हैं, इतने
ये
पैसा भेज रहे हैं,
बता रहे हैं आपको, इतना बड़ा इंस्टीट्यूट IIT खड़गपुर है,
हम इतने पैसा देते हैं,
तो बड़ा
उनको
सेफ
पेरेंट्स
होगा,
सोचते
लेकिन
हैं।
नहीं है, क्योंकि जो अथॉरिटीज हैं यहाँ अब, इसमें तो बहुत इंटरेस्ट। अब अथॉरिटीज डू नॉट सी रैगिंग एज ए इम्पोर्टेंट थिंग एट ऑल। ये बाय द वे है, साइड है, इसका कोई महत्व नहीं है। आई नो मेनी पीपल विल फील से दैट ये अच्छी बात नहीं कह रहे हैं टेलीविजन पर, बट दिस इज द रियलिटी। पेरेंट्स हैव टू अंडरस्टैंड दिस, दे मस्ट रियलाइज कि दिस इज द रियलिटी ऑफ टुडे। 3 साल से
मेरा बेटा को मार डाला गया है, कल क्या जाने यही रैगिंग की वजह से किस माँ का बेटा को मार डालेगा, कोई ठिकाना नहीं। हम IIT में अपने बच्चे को मारने के लिए भेजते रहेंगे? अगर वहाँ मैनेजमेंट ऐसे नहीं करेंगे, अथॉरिटी ठीक नहीं होंगे, तो कैसे हर फैजान मरते रहेंगे, हर फैजान की मर्डर होते रहेगा, हर फैजान की मर्डर होते रहेगा। मेरा एक ही बेटा था, बड़ी तकलीफ से मैं बड़ी घर की अमीर नहीं थी, हम लोग खुद ये करके, मैं जॉब करके अपने छोटे से ये करके मैं बच्चे को पाल के, इतने बड़े सपने वो लिया था, उसका सपना में सच करके वहां तक भेजी थी कि वो सपना में पूरा कर सके मेरा बेटा, कुछ बन सके मेरा बेटा। लेकिन आज मेरा बेटा सपने के करीब जब पहुंचा तो मर्डर हो गया, उसको मार डाला गया है। इसका इंसाफ आप लोग कीजिए, मुझे इंसाफ चाहिए।
Will there be justice? Will this continue? Is the mother asking for justice? Her son won't be returned. Can she at least know what actually happened, and will those behind this be brought to book? Aarti Rajaratnam, you work with students, you're a psychologist. What is the mentality, what is the hidden mentality behind this ragging? Why does this continue to happen? Again, as I ask those students, because there's a cycle, and if you've been a victim of ragging, do you then be the perpetrator of it?
See, it's a very complex question. I'm not going to try and simplify it and try and fit it into a box. It's also an initiation, so sometimes it's normalized in many of the colleges as a getting to know, as some kind of a freshers part kind of thing. But where this becomes a problem is that in India, if you look at children, right from when they are in school, they're not taught how to use freedom.
Yeah.
We're always, with great freedom comes great responsibility. And I think somewhere we miss out that in all our years of schooling. So that's where I think the problem really starts. And then when they come into the college years, when you expect them to be, you can't be expecting a professor to be sitting and monitoring, are they beating up each other, are they doing this? And it's happening usually in hostels. And this, the ragging culture starts when somebody is away from home. So it's usually in the army, it's in a hostel, those kind of things. But there are reported studies after World War I that say that the kind of ragging since World War I is actually more on the violent side. And I think that can also be something that we need to sort of look into very seriously. And I agree with the two grieving parents, and I'm so sorry. My heart goes out to you. I know that words can do nothing, but a lot of, law comes in, everything is on paper. In fact, I was also in some anti-ragging committees of a couple of colleges and things like that. But when something is reported, there is no process. Nothing has been set down, and there's no process. So if I was a student and I went and complained to a professor or even to the principal of the college, they don't know what to do after that. So suspending somebody is never, see, the punitive aspect of discipline never works. It has to be restorative or preventive. We've missed the point in all of this. If we're always looking at the punitive part of it, I don't think this whole issue is ever going to find a resolution. We need to start looking at preventive aspects, which is we need to help adolescents right from, when they're 13 years old to understand how to work on aggression, how to deal with other people empathetically and with compassion, with compassionate empathy in that sense. And also to understand that might is never right. Bullying
and freedom
is
comes
never,
with responsibility.
Okay. Yes,
Praneeth
freedom.
Mungali, you're an educationist, you work with the Sanskriti groups of schools. Are we doing enough of that at the school level? As we have, as we've just raised the issue here, what happens at the school levels? Are we taught, are students taught as they prepare to go into college, what to expect, what to accept when it comes to ragging?
So, firstly, my condolences, मैं सहानुभूति और शोक प्रकट करना चाहूँगा रेहाना जी को उनके लॉस के लिए. It's heartbreaking for anyone associated with education to see these kind of tragedies occurring. In the answer to the question, I endorse what Aarti ji mentioned earlier, that the solution for this has to be via reformation and not retribution. And the efforts to really prevent another Aman or a Faizan coming into case, it has to start as a school level, like you pointed out, where policies to educate adolescents about the long-term harmful effects on mental health of students. Because the negative feedback loop of this culture where bullying is perpetuated is really a result of the young impressionable minds not being informed and really sensitized about the long-term damages which they cause to individuals, not just in very, very severe and tragic cases like happened to Aman and Faizan, but there are adults who grow up who carry the trauma of bullying, of ragging, whatever moniker you want to put to it, for the rest of their lives. So we can definitely do more at a school level when children are becoming adolescents. We do it in our organization, but there needs to be more impetus in doing it in a standard manner across the country in schools.
All right.
Where stakeholders, parents also need to be sensitized in case their children are indulging in this. So more definitely needs to be done with all the stakeholders associated with this at a school level.
All right. I just want to say thank you all for joining us tonight on this topic, because there's so much politics happening today. There's that big cricket match where we wanted to put the spotlight on this issue. As Raj Kachru says, no one seems to think it's a problem anymore. Mr. Kachru, I just want to go to you to wind up this show. What would you like to say? You have not just experienced this, you've been working to try and, sort out a solution to this issue over the last decade. What would you like to say to wind up this show for anyone who's listening?
I have two things to say. I want to tell the government. First, I want to say that the ragging is not only what we have understood ragging for years, that seniors are ragging the juniors, but when you look at the data of the last 10 years, you will see there are many second year, third year, fourth year, fifth year students being ragged. So it is violence on campuses, and we do not have any mechanisms in the country to control violence in campuses. Police are not there. The Supreme Court said very clearly in 2009, if the college authorities cannot control violence in the campuses, then we should have a police chowki in the campus. So it's a different ballgame altogether. But what has happened is that the monitoring mechanisms at the central level, for instance, have completely broken down. The interest in this problem has broken down in the last 3 years. We have built a regulation for bullying in schools, the kind of thing the psychologists and the educationists were talking about. This is pending in the last 4 years in some bureaucrat's desk. It took us 6 years to build it up, but it's not going anywhere. So from a government point of view, people have to understand that government as of now is not giving it the highest priority. That's very clear. So parents must protect their children.
Tragic.
That is my advice to all the parents. They must protect the children until some time in the future when government gets interested in this problem again and we can move further.
Thank you, Mr. Kapoor. Thank you, Rehana ji. We are out of time. I just want to say we need to ask.
की बात अगर IIT जैसी अथॉरिटी नहीं मानेंगे तो उनको इसके लिए पनिश होना पड़ेगा, उनको ये सजा मिलना पड़ेगा कि क्यों नहीं मान रहे वो इतने बड़े इंस्टीट्यूट हो गए, अगर सुप्रीम कोर्ट की बात नहीं मान रहे तो क्यों नहीं मान रहे, इसके लिए उनको ये किया जाए.
And also the more prestigious the institute, the greater the cover-up it seems to be. But we need to ask what kind of citizens are we graduating from our schools? Those who have been broken by ragging and those who inflict it. Those are the ones coming out of our campuses, out of our colleges. A big worry for all of us as a society. Thank you for joining us on We the People tonight. Bye-bye.